must be a bayonet fitting.
Tommy, what?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Did a video on bulbs, you said.
Bulb joke.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Embrace Your Outdoor Space. My name is Tommy Cross, and in this episode we are going to be looking at bulbs. Now bulbs I think are often overlooked because a lot of the time people throw them into the ground and nothing ever manifests, and that's a common complaint of many gardeners, but this is an opportune time to get out into your garden and start planting them. It's that tail end of the summer here in the UK, the start of September, and for me that means an awkward time in the garden because your plants are starting to fade, all that colour, the petals are starting to drop, the autumn colours are starting to descend on the leaves are starting to descend onto the ground itself. So we're bringing in a new season, we're saying goodbye to summer, but that doesn't mean our work is done because we've already got one eye on next year. And one of those tasks that you can do at this time of year is to make sure that you brighten your beds and borders next year by planting bulbs into barren patches of the garden. Now, we've got some herbaceous planting on the go here in this part of the garden. It's a little bit of a sheltered spot here, semi-shade, and these voids here, although we've got freshly turned soil, so they look quite attractive now, we want to sex them up, spruce them up, give some more colour this time next year. And we can have colour in these areas all the way through the winter, all the way through the spring, into the tail end of summer, and the whole cycle is going to go over and again. And the way we do it and the way we achieve it is by using bulbs. Now there are a vast variety of plants that you can grow from bulb, everything from endangered species like Hyacinths non-scripta, almost slipped up on that, which I would advocate that if you can, get them planted because it's starting to become an endangered species here in the UK. Things like your Alliums, your Allium globe master, huge globe heads of purples and whites, pastel blues, a great plant to be able to get colour at height. Agapanthus pots are ideal, great way to be able to keep colour on the patio or in smaller areas. Get busy in the beds and borders, start planting up your pots, and the way to do it is to plant up some bulbs. So if you're looking for winter colour, you could plant your Crocus, you can plant your Snowdrops, but if you're planting them this year, don't expect results this coming winter. They need to bed in, they need to get comfortable, they need to soak up all of those minerals in the soil, and next winter you'll get that bounty of colour, that low growing skirt of wonderful whites from the Snowdrops and all those beautiful colours from the Crocus. Now if it's spring colour, spring to me is synonymous with daffodils, that first cheery yellow, and these are vain plants. They come up, they steal the show, they've got nothing else around. To me, daffodils are all about closing the door in winter and welcoming in the spring season with a big cheery yellow ray of sunshine. Summer, summer, summertime. Oh, I almost forgot another one that you can plant for spring colour as well. Hyacinth. That's all I'm going to say on that because it smells a bit like wee. Don't plant hyacinths if you don't like them. How could I overlook tulips? I mean, these created a fever of activity, a genuine tulip fever, and it's well worth Googling this. It is an incredible chapter of history, going back to the 1500s, where the price of tulips overnight almost rivaled that of an entire house. Now, the reason why this became such a European phenomenon is because they were such beautiful looking plants, almost tropical in their look, and these new varieties, unseen before, captivated the public's imagination. Most importantly, took hold of their scents and their wallets. Their purse strings were being emptied with this new fever. Sadly, the entire market collapsed almost overnight. People lost everything, their life savings, future earnings, all for a little bulb. There were reports actually of people throwing themselves to their deaths in despair at the collapse of the market. We don't have to worry about that now because they're now cost effective and plentiful and very easy to plant if you want spring colour. Sorry 1500s. Would you believe it, but these are all Alliums. Different sized bulbs, different sized plants, different coloured plants, a whole fanfare of colour at height or down low from one type of plant. And they have this wonderful spherical head of colour, this pom-pom, which can punctuate those quieter parts of your beds and borders, great for planting in front of backdrops as well. So if you've got hedgerows or if you've got fencing and you want pops of colour, Alliums are a really easy way to be able to create interest at height, but more importantly, you're adding pollinators into your beds and borders, which is another great addition to your garden. One of the most important rules of thumb when it comes to planting your bulbs is that the bulb size, no matter how big or small that bulb might be, dictates the depth that you plant it. Same rule of thumb for all bulb sizes, 3 times the depth of the bulb is the optimum depth for each bulb to be planted. If you plant them too deep, then it may struggle to penetrate up through the soil, or worse still, they may come up blind, so no flowers. If you plant them too shallow, then they're in what I call the danger zone, because something else will have an eye on everything you're planting. It's the squirrels, the pests, the menace, maybe a few of the birds as well start digging around in the soil, latch onto these, and that bulb is gone. Now when you get your bulbs home from the garden centre, or perhaps you've inherited them, or if you've had them kept for a season in your shed, it's worth checking the health of each bulb. And the really easy way to do that is A, look at them. Is that enough footage of me looking at a bulb? What you may find is that some early sprouting going on, especially if they've been in sunshine and storage, or if they've had a little bit of moisture, that's fine. What you don't want to see is any mold or mildew on the surface, because that bulb is already starting to rot. So there's no point planting that whatsoever. So you may as well feed that one to the squirrels and leave it on the surface. And you're also going to give them a little squeeze as well, because that will allow you to gauge the health of the bulb. If they're too soft, they're starting to rot from the middle, and they're not likely to have any success whatsoever. So this is what we're looking for. That's a really lovely looking bulb. Look at that perfect shape, perfect size. It's going to do well. But how are we going to plant, and where are we going to plant them? You can underplant underneath established planting, as long as you're not going to penetrate into existing root systems. You can create little skirts around the outside. You can pop them off in streams. You can mix your bulbs. Don't be too particular. Sometimes I like to get all the bulb collections, mix them all together, so that way I don't know what I'm getting. If you want to be more precise and you want to flood this area with one type of plant, make sure you keep note of what it is that you've got, and that way you can keep tabs on it next year as it starts to manifest, and you start to see the little green shoots start penetrating up through the soil, and then you'll see your first signs of success. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there's a little bit of prep that you need to do. It involves making sure that your subsoil structure is good enough to receive those bulbs, gentle rotation, or you can turn in some new compost into your beds and borders, so that when those bulbs start sprouting, you've got plenty of good stuff to latch onto. Now, if you've made it this far into this video of a man sat in a bed and border doing absolutely nothing other than talking about bulbs, thank you. Because now I'm going to show you how to plant. And what do you need? Well, you've got a choice here. You can go medieval. This is probably one of the oldest gardening tools that I've used. Obviously not this one, this is quite new. It's a dibber. And all you do with this is take this prong and you stab it into the ground and you give it a wiggle, and it creates a perfect planting hole. It doesn't get more old school and simple than that. Bulb planters. These are a really useful way to be able to plant your bulbs precisely. You've got depth gauges on the outside, most of them will have those embossed to the surface, and they've got a core which allows you to twist and turn into the soil and creates a perfect void for you then to be able to plant your bulbs into. But that's quite labour intensive, and I've got a lot of bulbs to plant, so I don't really want to be doing that on every single bulb. That's when I get a drill and a big drill bit. By using a drill and an oversized drill bit, you can create the holes in record time, enabling you to plant your bulbs swiftly and easily.
What's that for?
Oh, yes. Probably the most important piece of apparatus, especially if you're using a bulb planter. This is what's known as a brick. Why do I need a brick? Well, every time you take a core out of your soil using the bulb planter, you can tap it out and that'll free up the soil. Stops you getting clogged up. Or, if you really want to speed up your bulb planting, you could buy a new bulb blitzer. The bulb blitzer speeds up your planting. Simply insert it into a coreless drill and blitz away. When it comes to bulb planting, don't just plant, blitz those bulbs. On a serious note, if you have got a lot of bulbs to plant, this is something we devised on a project once where we had about 2,000 bulbs to plant, and it really did speed up the process. Take the cordless drill, draw through the handle of the bulb planter, get yourself a nut and a bolt, pass it through the hole, take your nut. Ideally you want to make sure you try and screw this obviously right through the middle of the bulb planter handle. That way you're going to exert all your effort down through centrally. I'm going to tighten those off some grips and insert it into the chuck. Tighten up that chuck. Now the trick is to make sure that you use your drill in reverse. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but you've obviously got a thread on there with that bolt. So by using it in reverse, you don't undo the thread of the bolt. And it's also a good test of how healthy your soil is, because if you're really struggling to penetrate the ground, it might mean you need to do a little bit of extra work in order to create better composition for your soil. But now, I'm going from hole to hole without having to expend any elbow grease. The last thing to remember, once you have planted your bulb, make sure you plant it bottom down, and the bottom is the nib here, and the tip is the top, bottom down, and then it bottoms up for your beds and borders next year. You just have to sit back, relax, enjoy waiting. You won't have to wait too long until our next instalment of Embrace Your Outdoor Space. And if you want to see it, don't forget there's a subscribe button down there, and there's also a comment section if you've got any questions. Perhaps you've got a horticultural horror show going on at home and you want to be able to improve your outdoor space. Send us a message down in the comment section and we'll reply to those as soon as we can. That might be some time, because I've got a fair few bulbs to plant. I've only had a bulb list.